Another of my recurring narratives has just gained a new adherent. John Fund at nationalreview.com this morning poses the eminently reasonable question: does Donald Trump even want to be president? Believe it or not, this sort of thing is visible to voters. And perhaps Americans don't want to elect a grown man who acts like a 13-year-old boy. Now, Donald Trump does know how to act in a serious, restrained way that impresses people, according to Mr. Fund. Now, you'd never know it from this campaign, and I'm on record many times as saying Donald Trump is not capable of self-control. But, in all fairness, Mr. Fund provides an example of his assertion. The fact that he isn't displaying those qualities in his presidential race raises questions about just how much he cares about winning and what his purpose in this race has really been. There was a time when he really cared about the art of one particular deal. In 1990, Trump nearly went bankrupt and was forced to ask dozens of banks to whom he owed $4 billion to change the terms on their loans and forgive some of his debts. In describing this deal, Trump has said he focused on it with more intensity and purpose than anything he had done in his life to that point. Entirely unlike he's focusing on his presidential campaign. In The Choice 2016, PBS's recently aired 2-hour documentary on the election, Gwenda Blair, author of The Trumps, reports that bankers held gigantic meetings at Trump Tower with 40 banks. 40 banks! Good Lord. All sitting around in a room, representatives of the banks. Donald very sober, looking like not quite penitent perhaps, but at least serious. Blair says that Trump escaped collapse by convincing his creditors he was more valuable to them financially alive rather than dead. He proceeded to recoup his losses by shifting from real estate deals at which he quite evidently sucked to licensing his well-known name and smearing it all over everything with the fine residue of Cheeto dust in its wake. But Trump isn't acting with that seriousness of purpose now. He blew off holding traditional practice sessions before the first debate, aka joint press appearance last week, and boy did it show. Then he spent days counterpunching down against Alicia Machado's accusation that Trump had humiliated her 20 years ago over her weight gain shortly after she was crowned Miss Universe. Trump's heated back and forth with Machado, which was completely irrelevant to the campaign, and her supporters in the Clinton camp culminated in a tweet storm, which I discussed in a video a few days ago, at 3 a.m. on Friday, in which he urged followers to check out her sex tape, which is a reference to the fact that she appeared in a controversial reality show on Spanish TV that seemed to show her having sex under cover of blankets. I think Trump was just jealous. He never got the chance to bang her when she fit his definition of hot. Tweets about how exactly he would help average Americans or make America great again have been scarce of late. Well, there's never has been any substance behind that, so your mileage may vary, I guess. Despite warnings that he should cool it, Trump proceeded on Friday to imitate, as we discussed a few days ago in a video here on the Hard Starboard Radio channel, to imitate Hillary Clinton buckling at a 9/11 memorial service last month and suggested she might not have been loyal to her husband. In other words, mockery, cheap shots that are irrelevant to the campaign other than in the sense of generating public sympathy for Mrs. Clinton, which I wouldn't have thought possible, but Trump is managing to accomplish it. Thing is it accidental or is it deliberate? Now, all this juvenile behavior has caused Trump to, ta-da, slump in the polls. Fox News found that after the first debate, 2/3 of likely voters said Hillary Clinton had the temperament to serve as president. Her iron Nixonian discipline, ladies and gentlemen. Trump's temperament number fell a point to 37%, a 30-point gap, and that is why Hillary is going to win. Because that's the only significant difference between the two, is that she can control herself when she needs to, and Trump can't or won't. Ideologically, they're the same. They're both corrupt. They're both arrogant. They're both strutting narcissists. They're both authoritarian wannabe dictators. Everything's the same, except she can control herself, and he either can't or won't. And if it's won't, Trumplicans need to ask the question, why? I'm reminded of William Stryker's line from X-Men Origins Wolverine. You know, the helicopter explosion scene where Wolverine takes out Agent Zero. And Wolverine tells Stryker, after I kill Victor, I'm coming for you next. And what does Stryker say? He said, Logan, if you go down this path, you're not going to like what you find. Same thing with Trumplicans, pondering why Trump seems to be taking a dive, helping Hillary to win. Now, why is Trump having such difficulty changing his behavior when he should know he is hurting himself? Well, he has provided the answer. It's not recent. But last year, financial journalist Michael D'Antonio published Never Enough, Donald Trump and the Pursuit of Success. Kapla! Klingon for success. The book was bolstered by 10 hours of exclusive interviews with the mogul. Some of the quotes are very revealing. When asked if he is ever introspective, Trump replied, yeah, sure, yeah, he's a total navel gazer. Trump replied, I don't like to analyze myself because I might not like what I see. I think he'd love what he saw, because that's who he is. When queried about his temperament, Trump said, when I look at myself in the first grade and I look at myself now, I'm basically the same. The temperament is not that different. He actually admitted this publicly. I wrote about it at the time at politicalpistachio.com. He said he loved to fight as a child. Any kind of fight. Loved it, including physical. Well, assuming Trump is telling the truth, there's the answer. As a grade schooler, Trump threw cake around a birthday party and gave a teacher a black eye because he was ignorant. His behavior was so out of control that his parents exiled him upstate to a military academy. Kind of like Howard and Maria Stark doing the same thing to their son Tony. Oh, if we'd only had a winter soldier, right? Trump's experience there at that military academy only cemented his bully boy traits. Trump has described the students and the drill sergeants there as people who would smack the hell out of you. Of course, Trump also can turn on the charm when he has the incentive to do so, when it's something he really wants. Fortunately, in many settings, Trump has controlled his childish tendencies, D'Antonio writes. But his success in capturing the GOP nomination by not controlling those childish tendencies seems to have created a belief in his own invincibility, which plays right into his narcissistic personality disorder, and reinforced these traits that are costing him the election. He's like a 13-year-old boy who can stay up as late as he wants, eat junk food, and there's no adult who has the right to take away his phone and stop the tweeting. Though apparently Kellyanne Conway has tried very, very hard. Yes, Trump's lack of impulse control has also been an asset to him in his reality TV career. He comes across as spontaneous, funny, well, not funny. Spontaneous, yeah. Unscripted, yeah. Funny, no, not really. The opposite of most politicians, but he is a politician. He's running for president, so he's a professional politician. It's the paradoxical effect of the bad little boy, D'Antonio wrote in an article for CNN in March of this year. Yes, he's out of line and must be taught to respect others, which a lesson he refuses to learn. However, the sight and sound of someone behaving with such an unbridled enthusiasm is also entertaining. That's what this is all about. That's what politics is in the United States in 2016. Politics and entertainment are indistinguishable. And voting Billy off the island on Survivor, or voting on Dancing with the Stars, or American Idol, or America's Got Talent, or The Voice is indistinguishable from voting for President of the United States. The two have become the same. There's no difference. That's how people look at it. This is what happens when a republic degenerates into a democracy. Ladies and gentlemen. And we're way at the other side of democracy by this time. In other words, we're given the illusion of popular sovereignty, and that, oh, well, we want your opinion on this, we want your opinion on that. You can vote on all this and this, but nothing that actually matters. This election doesn't matter. This country is currently languishing in the iron-fisted grip of a communist dictator. After this election, this nation will continue to languish in the grip either of another communist dictator or a Nazi dictator, a National Socialist, a fascist, which is Donald J. Trump. So, we vote for everything, but none of it makes any difference. It's the ultimate in futility, and it's not, when you stop and think about it, it's not entirely dissimilar from the Matrix. You're plugged into this system, and you're living in a dream world, and you don't even know it. And those who attempt to point it out, to escape the system, well, watch Matrix Revolutions, and you'll find out what happens to those who unplug. But unless Trump comes across as a little less entertaining and a lot more responsible, he will never be able to persuade swing voters he won't embarrass or destroy the country in the White House. If Americans on Election Day think Donald Trump has the maturity of a 13-year-old boy, undecided voters will conclude he is 22 years shy of the age requirement for president stipulated in the Constitution, that he knows nothing about and cares less. They won't vote for him, and he will be shipped back to the gilded cage of Trump Tower, while Mrs. Clinton makes all her dreams come true. The way he's acting, it seems as if he might prefer the comfort of that safe zone over the responsibility of the Oval Office. Now, in a video a few days ago, I went on, in fact, it was in my debate review, an hour-long video here at the Hard Starboard radio channel on YouTube. And I, throughout that video, went on at great length beseeching Trump supporters to ask themselves why Trump didn't mention any of his core issues. Why Trump didn't go after any of Mrs. Clinton's gaping vulnerabilities. Again, just as a refresher, in that first joint press appearance a week ago, Trump never mentioned immigration, never mentioned border control, never mentioned Trump wall, never mentioned Emailgate, never mentioned the Clinton Foundation, never mentioned Mrs. Clinton's health. And in a video yesterday, I gave an example of how he could bring that up in the context of Mrs. Clinton's campaign ad from the Democrat primaries back in 2008 when she said, "Who do you want in the White House to take that 3 a.m. phone call?" Well, if Mrs. Clinton is incapacitated, if she's bedridden, if she's in the hospital, if she faints when the 3 a.m. phone call comes in, well, isn't that something that should be taken into consideration for somebody you're entrusting with the power of the presidency of the United States? That's how you make it relevant to the campaign. And what did Trump do? Mocking her. Making it personal. Taking cheap shots below the belt that can only engender sympathy for her. Hence, something that a lot of us have wondered in Never Trump, have wondered for a long time, does he really want to be president? Is he going to throw this election? Is he doing what it takes to make sure that Hillary Clinton becomes president of the United States? Now, the other thing I didn't mention in that list was Benghazi. Benghazi, the open wound, or should be the open sucking wound, in the heart of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Trump didn't bring it up. How is that possible? Unless Trump is not trying to win, not trying to stop crooked Hillary. Well, I mean, now here's an example of a way that this could be done with devastating effectiveness. Caleb Howe points it out. Relays it, actually. It was a piece by William Jacobson at Legal Insurrection. Now, does the name, let's see, Nakula Baseli Nakula ring a bell? Well, let's go through this, ladies and gentlemen. There has been a lot of talk about Alicia Machado lately, for which you can blame Trump entirely. And not merely because he was the idiot who acted like a fool and a pig all those years ago, but because, as is his wont, he wouldn't let it go this week. It's like the kerfuffle with the Khan family. Khan! All over again. Of course. And this is the thing I talked about this last week too. Wouldn't you think, I mean, you're running against La Clinta Nostra. Remember Bill and Hillary, Blue Plate Special? Dirtiest players in the game? You're running against, that's who you're running against. And of course they're going to dredge up things from your past, especially if you have as many skeletons in your closet as Donald Trump does. So you should expect that. You should be prepared for it. You should be prepared to take it in stride, not flip out. You got to know that they're going to come after those things. But Trump's ego just cannot abide any challenge. So of course the Clintons dredged something up, and there's so much to dredge. Of course Hillary ambushed Trump with it at the debate. Of course it was bait. Politics ain't beanbag, and again, this is the Clinton crime family we're talking about. You can't not expect them to pull stuff like this. So it would help if you didn't give them so much ammunition from which to choose, like you're in a buffet. And naturally, and of course, and just like the Clintons knew he would, Trump took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. His narcissistic personality disorder made sure of that. So the media cannot wait to get Republicans on a social justice issue, and Trump is ready to give them what they want. But that doesn't mean that the press isn't equally as guilty. And I'm not even going to talk about screw the press. The press is what the press is. They're beyond electoral reach, and they are always going to help the Democrat. So let's not even talk about the press. Again, and which is why I get back to the fact, why didn't Trump bring any of these things up? Why isn't Trump bringing up Nakula Baselli Nakula? Now, if you think he's not famous, think again. He's both famous and infamous, thanks mainly to, at the time, Commissar of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now we go to a quote from the aforementioned legal insurrection post, William Jacobson. So far, there has been near silence this campaign season about how Hillary destroyed the life of Nakula Baselli Nakula, the guy who made the Muhammad film Innocence of Muslims, that Hillary falsely blamed for the Benghazi attack that killed 4 Americans, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens. Now you remember him. Here's a video refresher.
We are closely watching what is happening in Yemen and elsewhere, and we certainly hope and expect that there will be steps taken to avoid violence and prevent the escalation of protests into violence. I also want to take a moment to address the video circulating on the internet that has led to these protests in a number of countries. Let me state very clearly, and I hope it is obvious, that the United States government had absolutely nothing to do with this video. We absolutely reject its content and message. America's commitment to religious tolerance goes back to the very beginning of our nation. And as you know, we are home to people of all religions, many of whom came to this country seeking the right to exercise their own religion, including, of course, millions of Muslims. And we have the greatest respect for people of faith. To us, to me personally, this video is disgusting and reprehensible. It appears to have a deeply cynical purpose to denigrate a great religion and to provoke rage.
This has been a difficult week for the State Department and for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with. It is hard for the American people to make sense of that because it is senseless and it is totally unacceptable. The people of Egypt, Libya, Yemen, and Tunisia did not trade the tyranny of a dictator for the tyranny of a mob.
Has led to these protests, she said. Rage over an awful internet video, she said. Well, it's so very useful to see it and hear it again because you won't see or hear these clips on the cable news shows, and more to the point, Donald Trump doesn't seem to want to bring them up. Now, what happened to the man who made the film, you may be wondering? Where is he now? Well, as you will recall, and remember that my first guest hosting gig on Constitution Radio was the week of the Benghazi debacle. So, I don't know what it is. Every time I sit in for Doug, something happens, and I got plenty to talk about. But Nakula was immediately arrested after publicity about the film revealed that he used the internet in violation of probation terms. Remember that picture of the, I don't know, local sheriff's deputies or something, but they were all wearing brown shirts? That was some unfortunate optics for the regime right there. While Nakula's life is murky, there is no doubt that his life has spiraled downward since the false claim that his movie led to the deaths. He spent a year in prison, and as Kelly Pickett at the Daily Caller wrote in November of last year about how his life has changed, Nakula, and here's a key thing, an Egyptian-born caustic Christian. You think any of this stuff would have happened to him if he had been a Muslim? Just saying. Nakula is presently on supervised probation in Los Angeles. He lives a quiet life at a homeless shelter provided by the First Southern Baptist Church. He earns $300 a month. I'm going to go way out on a limb and say that's way below the poverty line. Working part-time at a pizza parlor, a job he has had for 1 year. I am a very poor person. I'm a homeless person. I like to keep my mouth shut. I don't like to go to jail again. I like to stay with people and be quiet and keep a low profile. I'm working part-time in the church and helping the homeless because I live with them. According to Nakula, some in the shelter are aware of who he is, but he mainly keeps to himself, helping out in the kitchen. The shelter gives me everything: food, housing, the whole thing. Nakula is not in touch with his family and is apparently estranged from them. Additionally, he no longer talks to friends or business associates from his past. I'm disappeared from them, and Nakula said. Nakula also said the church continues to help him look for more work, but the Benghazi video controversy, to say nothing of the Obama economy, has made it difficult. Close quote. Living in a homeless shelter. Hillary Clinton ruined Nakula Beseli Nakula. But she didn't call him fat, so it's not news, and apparently it's not worth bringing up in Donald Trump's mind. Just last month, Fox News followed up on this story, and Mr. Nakula is still living in the homeless shelter. So Hillary blamed Nakula and blamed him again and then blamed him again. Others in the Obama regime backed her lie, a lie that she didn't just tell the public. Hillary's treachery and lies are now well known because of documents uncovered against the state commissariat and Hillary Clinton's wishes. Those documents show that as she was blaming Nakula's film for supposedly spontaneous mob attacks, she privately told her daughter and others that it was a planned terrorist attack, which it was. So, in other words, Mrs. Clinton used, abused, crushed, and discarded this little guy nobody named Nakula Baseli Nakula because it served hers and Barack Obama's purposes to do so. Mrs. Clinton likewise lied directly to the faces of the family members of those who were killed. Now, it is the job of blogs and online publications. Remember the swarm of bees trying to influence the grizzly bear in the forest? To hold politicians accountable, whatever their party. How much more so, then, does... Well, never mind with the media. It's not the point. If you want to talk about harm done to someone through a candidate's public words, then sure, you can bring up the former Miss Universe. That co-interview she had to endure with Trump was excruciating. His remarks about her were grotesque. All true, all fair. But if that harm done through public words is a story, surely homeless and branded Nakula Baseli Nakula merits attention as well. Hillary harmed him through deceit, and that is worth remembering. But it goes beyond even that point, ladies and gentlemen. It isn't just that Mrs. Clinton ruined Nakula's life with her words. Because if she hadn't been in government, I mean, she could have said those things, but it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. She would not have had any power to back them up. But she used the power of her position as Commissar of State, a high-ranking government official, that power was behind those words. She abused that power in a very authoritarian way in service to a communist dictator. Now, make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump would misuse the power of the presidency in this very way. This very way, abusing, oppressing, crushing, and discarding the American people. And for the exact same reasons. She's a Marxian socialist. He's a National Socialist. They're both socialists. That is why neither is fit for the office they seek and deserve none of our votes. But once again, the recurring question: why won't Donald Trump bring this up? You know, if Donald Trump does somehow manage to win this election and become the next president of the United States, I'm going to call him President Nero. Because, I mean, I picture him, Trump in a toga, his back to the country in flames, just playing away on his violin. I don't know if Trump plays the violin, but that's what it amounts to. Any people that could possibly elect Donald Trump is a country that no longer deserves to exist, because it's that unserious. It's practically an invitation for our enemies to conquer or destroy us, or both. And it's not like we could stop them. So, I mean, that brings this video full circle. And we started out asking the question, is Trump trying to tank the election, trying to take a dive? Does he not want to be president, and he's choosing not to control himself? Or is it the other camp, which is he's not capable. It's a lot like the two camps throughout the Obama era, the age of the one. On the one hand, is Obama just that incompetent, or does he know exactly what he's doing and he's that malevolent? Well, that's the thing with Trump, the equivalent thing with Trump. Is he incapable of controlling himself, or is he just choosing not to because he doesn't really want to win, because his role in this campaign is to ensure that Hillary Clinton, his good friend, Hillary Clinton, becomes the next president of the United States? Is that why he is in this race? To serve as Hillary Clinton's stalking horse? Well, Kimberly Ross at Red State this morning definitely is in the he's not capable of self-control camp. You know why Trump won't attack Mrs. Clinton harder in the next debate? He can't. He's not capable of it. And he doesn't know how, is what I think is the core answer here. Now, like it or not, Republican nominee Donald Trump lost the first joint press appearance, which took place last Monday. I'm not supporting either major party candidate, but I agree with the undecideds who say that Hillary came out on top once the Cheeto dust settled. With only 2 joint press appearances left, thank God, both candidates are looking to increase support as Election Day nears. Both are polarizing in different ways, in similar ways. So the task before them is great. But remember the analogy of the 2 natives who are trying to escape a killer leopard, and one of them stops to put on a pair of running shoes, and the other one says, "What are you doing that for? Those aren't going to enable you to outrun the leopard." And the other native says, "I don't have to outrun the leopard. All I have to do is outrun you." That's really what it is. Politics is relative. There's no absolute, there's no minimum number you have to attain. All Mrs. Clinton has to do is get more votes than Donald Trump. And she's well on course to doing precisely that. Now, preparation on the Trump side of the aisle for the first debate was minimal at best, as the Washington Times reported, quote, Republican, I always have to put the quotes around it, presidential nominee Donald Trump didn't need mock debates or other traditional prepping for the big debate last Monday because he was born for this moment, according to his running mate. Yeah, that would be Mike Cuck Pence. He's been preparing for tonight his entire life, said Cuck Pence in a CNN interview shortly before Trump took the stage to face off with Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton at Hofstra University in New York. He's someone who loves his family, loves this country, and I think tonight people are going to see that lifetimes of experience and that authenticity come through. I can boil down that whole pathetic display from Mike Cuck Pence in just one metaphorical gesture. Mike Pence is going to need to be in therapy for years after this disastrous mistake. Even hopping aboard, but not only that, but as Trump's caddy, pathetic. Now, obviously, all that patriotism and family pride didn't go far with voters who have yet to make their choice. The guy who cannot be tamed by advisors and media or flesh and blood, nobody controls Trump, insists the next debate, joint press appearance scheduled for next Sunday, October 9th, will be different. By the way, I will be watching the Giants and the Packers on Sunday Night Football on NBC. I'd much rather stare up Carrie Underwood's dress than Hillary Clinton's. So that's where I will be. That's what I'll be doing. I mean, you would have to pay me to watch this crap. You would have to pay me. You would have to hire me to do so. I'm not going to just do it for nothing. But Trump insists that next Sunday will be different. Clinton, Trump, 2. He must be forgetting that we have his past, his personality, and those GOP candidate debates to look back upon. Reuters reports, quote, Trump may take up the attack line going forward. Yeah, in all the wrong areas, all the irrelevancies, all the... the RNC on Trump's behalf is now targeting Roger Clinton. I'm not making that up. They are targeting Roger Clinton, the half-brother of Bill Clinton. Why? Because apparently the Clintons bought him a house using a limited liability company. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Bill and Hillary Clinton made a purchase of a home through a limited liability company, and this is supposed to be a huge scandal. I mean, obviously, they did so. They did it that way because there was a tax benefit to purchasing the home via a limited liability company rather than paying cash, or just gifting him $875,000. And how does that compare with Trump running up $1 billion in losses that he's been carrying forward to avoid paying any taxes for the past 2 decades, as the New York Times leaked late last week? That's at least one reason why Trump doesn't want to release any of his tax returns. But quite clearly, that is what has the RNC pissing itself, and this bit of pathos about Roger Clinton is the best comeback they can come up with. Vector Sigma. Just sad. Sad indeed, my friends. But he wants to go after that. He wants to go after Monica Lewinsky. He wants to go after Whitewater. He wants to go after cattle futures, which at least, or the White House Travel Office firings. Those two would at least have the virtue of being about Hillary as opposed to Bill. But that's what Trump wants to relitigate the 90s. Which I can guarantee you he himself doesn't give a rat's ass about. Didn't then, doesn't now. He said it at the time. This stuff doesn't matter. This stuff's irrelevant. Well, now he's bringing it up. Why? Because he thinks he can hurt Hillary with it. But none of these things mattered 20 years ago. And now they're bringing and now Trump and on his orders, the RNC are bringing these things back up now? Like anybody's going to care? They didn't care 20 years ago. Why is anybody going to care now? In fact, half the electorate isn't even, it's ancient history to them. They didn't live through it. It's just something they read on Wikipedia. And, oh, well, that's nice. Oh, well, it sounded like Bill was getting a lot of pussy. Whoa, that was the reason why Bill Clinton got more popular when he got impeached. Because people thought, hey, you're impeaching him because he got laid a lot? How is that a bad thing? That's the line of attack. That's the attack line that Trump is talking about. We discussed it in a video a few days ago. That's his attack line. Things that nobody cares about. Not Benghazi, not the Clinton Foundation, not Emailgate, not even the White House Travel Office firings and cattle futures. Not None of that. I may hit her harder in certain ways, Trump said in a telephone interview with Fox and Friends. Trump sought to deflect criticism of his debate performance, saying the debate... Here we go with the BS excuses again. Saying the debate moderator Lester Holt of NBC News asked him unfair questions, and also the dog ate his homework, and that he was given a very bad microphone. Like I said before, does Trump even need a microphone? I would argue no, he really doesn't. I mean, it's typical Trump. If things don't go his way, he'll accuse others of not playing the game correctly so as to excuse himself of the responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. Sounds very liberal Democrat, doesn't it? Now, I'm sure most of us of the non-Trump variety would give much to see another candidate debating Hillary with substance and strength. But here we are with Trump. As the September 26th joint press appearance wore on, he became less disciplined and turned into a primetime version of his occasional tweet storms. Well, they're not occasional. Hillary Clinton knew which buttons to push, and she pushed them, and just as would Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, Ali Khamenei, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He's starting to Bashir Assad, throw him on the list as well. Fidel Castro, Raul Castro. Ready when you are, Raul. It's that obvious, folks. I mean, that's why if nothing else, and there are many other ways in which Donald Trump is unfit to be president, but that's a pretty big one right there. We don't need megalomaniacs in the White House. With Trump, what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG is the acronym. He'll go on a less than presidential rampage on social media in the early morning hours while sitting on Trump toilet. How is he outside of how he is outside of the debate stage is how he is on the joint press appearance stage. He doesn't believe that there should be rigorous preparation because he doesn't think he needs it. He'll wing it. Because he's Donald Trump. He can do anything. He's just that gosh darn talented. There is a great deal of factual ammunition to send her way. Nikula Baselli Nikula, Benghazi, Clinton Foundation, Emailgate, even cattle futures and the White House travel office firings. There is so much that he could throw out, not of any issue variety, because he doesn't. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump don't disagree on the issues. It's really like a Democrat. Think of this as the second Democrat primary. Because the candidates don't argue with each other over issues because they don't really disagree with each other on actual issues. So it has to be all personal. But is this starting to look familiar? Does that create a more relevant, more revealing context for this general campaign? A second Democrat primary? Should. Yep, Trump, that is focused on spewing insults instead of bringing facts, of which he's completely ignorant. And post-debate reactions are accusatory more than anything else to cover his ass because his ego will not permit him to own his mistakes or admit that, he screwed up. It just that the narcissism barrier is impregnable. And that's why Donald Trump is incapable of hitting Mrs. Clinton harder in their next scheduled encounter. There is a great deal of factual ammunition to send her way, as I said, of which he's completely ignorant, and he's not interested in bringing any of it up. I mean, seriously. Oh, Lester Holt asked unfair questions. Oh, come on, man. Trump spent 90 minutes interrupting Mrs. Clinton. Endlessly. And in any of those interruptions, don't you think he could have brought up Benghazi? Don't you think he could have brought up the plight of Nakula, Baseli Nakula? Not that he gives a rat's ass about the man, but couldn't he have brought it up on even one of those interruptions? Why did he not do so? Why isn't he doing so, Trumplicans? You'd think he'd do so, if nothing else, to play to his supporters, which would be you, Trumplicans. Doesn't it bother you that he's not even pandering to you anymore? Trump is uninterested in conventional tactics that others might use, tactics that would actually succeed, that would actually draw blood, that would actually knock Hillary back on her fat ass. I mean, the Occam's razor, guys and gals. The simplest explanation for a set of facts is usually the correct one. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle. If Trump is not bringing up areas of great vulnerability to Hillary Clinton, it must be because he doesn't want to. And that, in turn, suggests that he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to win and he's trying to help Hillary win. What other conclusion is there to draw, folks? Trump will not do a better job because he can't. He's not capable of it, or he doesn't want to. You know, now if he does manage to win this Sunday, it won't be because of a steady, focused performance. It'll be because Mrs. Clinton faints, fizz down. Well, no, actually, it's a town hall debate, so I guess she'd just fall over like a sack of oats. But the best Trump has at his disposal are one-line irrelevant, below-the-belt one-line zingers and the ability to constantly interrupt with none of the things that actually would work against Mrs. Clinton. Now, this may play well in sound bites and among his zombie cult, but they will not win over undecideds who will be voting next month, this month actually, with early voting. And maybe that's the point.